This lecture is from chapter 8 and it's titled The Presence of Others. So we're kind of continuing to discuss that idea of being in a group and how other people affect us. So let's first define, which I think we've already defined in other lectures, but what is a group? A group exists when two or more people interact for more than a few moments, affect one another in some way, and think of themselves as us. So that's probably most of us know the definition of a group, but that's an official definition. What is social facilitation? This is a concept in social psychology that describes how the presence of others can influence a person's performance on tasks. Social facilitation, I think, is an interesting concept because it seems that if we're doing a simple, familiar task, the presence of others can be very motivating. We might do it better because they're watching us. However, if we're doing a more difficult task, the presence of others can hinder our performance. So social facilitation, the presence of others can affect us negatively or positively. Let's look at a diagram of this. So we have the mere presence of others. And then we ask the question, is the task complex? If it's not, again, our level of performance improves. It's something we're used to doing, that's easy for us. People watching us makes us do it better. If it is a complex task that we're not used to doing, then we get nervous, I guess you could say, and our level of performance will decline. So that's the idea of social facilitation, how the presence of others affects us. It is important to note that the effect of others' presence increases with their number. So in other words, the larger the crowd, the more we are affected by social facilitation, whether negative or positive. So why does social facilitation occur? One reason is evaluation apprehension. This theory predicts that when we work in the presence of others, our concern over what they will think can, again, enhance or impair our performance. Evaluation apprehension improves the speech, for example, when you've rehearsed it really well, whereas an unrehearsed performance could end up a disaster because you're thinking so much about what others think. Performance also might simply be affected by distraction from other people, lights, sounds, and this is also going to most likely lead to a decreased performance. Another idea is social loafing. This is the phenomenon where individuals exert less effort in a group task than when working alone, often due to perceived reduced accountability and shared responsibility. So some causes of social loafing would be, as you look at the diagram, very complex goals, easily achievable goals, goal value, a lack of motivation, a sense of inferiority, you're not as good as other people in the group, lowered sense of self-efficacy. There could be a very large group size or a meager sense of responsibility. You just don't feel like you're as responsible when you're a member of a group. I'm sure all of you have probably had that experience where you're the member of a group or have a team project where someone just exerts less effort. And it could be because these reasons, because they're part of a group. So, how could the leader of a group reduce social loafing? Make individual contributions identifiable. Make individuals feel they are making a contribution. Stay small. We know that the bigger the group, the more you disappear in the group, so keep the group small. Evaluate individual and team contributions. Have members evaluate each other's contribution. Create an interesting and important task and encourage buy-in. Each member is allowed input into a decision, and members participate in setting clear goals and they establish clear roles. So essentially it's remembering to focus on each individual within the group instead of treating them just as a group. Another concept is group polarization. This is a social phenomenon where individuals in a group tend to adopt more extreme positions on issues after discussions compared to their initial opinions. Again, group polarization refers to the tendency for group discussion to strengthen the initial leanings of the members of the group. In other words, if you go into the group with conservative decisions, they're going to get more conservative. Risky decisions get more risky. Speaking of risky, there's a term called risky shift, and that is when a decision becomes more risky after being involved with a group. Risky shift occurs when people change their decisions or opinions to become more extreme and risky when acting as part of a group compared with acting individually. The result is that group decisions are bolder and more adventurous than those made by individuals alone, and even riskier than the average of the individual's opinions and decisions before group discussion. So sometimes when we're part of a group, it's easier to take risks. I think that's pretty obvious because we're all together. We're all taking the risk together. So we'll probably take greater risks than we would as an individual. So let's look at group polarization. Why does it occur? Informational influence. Ideas may include persuasive arguments that some group members had not previously considered. The more group members repeat one another's ideas, the more they rehearse and validate them. Normative influence. We compare ourselves to others, so we may express stronger opinions after discovering that others share our views. This is especially true if group members are similar to us. Just to end the presentation here, I have another quote, and you guys have probably figured out that I really like quotes. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed people can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. And I think that goes back to if you watched a previous presentation on groupthink. I know sometimes these lectures are presented as that groups are always negative, but they can be positive. Very positive. Again, as the quote says, a small group of thoughtful, committed people can change the world. So groups have both negative and positive aspects. Thank you for listening, and let me know if you have any questions.